So before you start dimensioning, please just take a copy of whatever you've done. Your model, center lines, everything. Copy it and move it to the side. All right. When we are marking your labs, we will see just one in your layout. This one here will have all your dimensions and stuff. But we also want to have one without dimensions. Okay, so just make a copy of what you've done with the center lines and everything. Copy it, move it to the side. But in your layout space, you should only see one. All right. This is because we're going to do some commands here, which will turn this into a 2D profile, which means we can't rotate it in 3 dimensions anymore. So you won't be able to check whether or not your 3D model was correct. That's why we need you to create a copy for us to be able to check your 3D model as well. Right. So to dimension something, hopefully you've all done your dimension style settings. Okay, we're just using the same settings as we did for previous labs. Okay, so all these settings you should already have with you from your past labs. Okay, so when dimensioning an object or dimensioning a surface, you have to first move your UCS to that surface. So in our case here, we're trying to dimension okay, we'll try and dimension this surface here. So on this surface, we have the radius 13. We have the radius 13, the 24, and the 13. So we have only 3 dimensions on this surface. So first you have to move our UCS to a point on this surface and make sure that the UCS is positive. What do I mean by positive? I mean that your X is in a positive direction and your Y is in a positive direction. So looking at this, if we were trying to dimension this surface, bearing in mind that our XY plane has to be parallel to this surface, which direction would be a positive X direction? Our XY plane has to be on this surface. So we'll have either this combination or this combination or this combination, right? This is a positive Y. This is a positive X. This is a negative X. And this is a negative Y. Okay, similar to the Cartesian plane. If you don't make your XY plane positive on that surface, your text or your dimension might appear upside down or back to front or flipped. So in order to make it show like this, you have to make sure your XY plane is positive. So I'm going to move my UCS to anywhere on this surface. I'll select this corner here. I'll make my X positive. and my y positive. Right? With this orientation, I can go ahead and select my dimension tool. Please, I recommend not using this dimension tool. This is the smart dimension. It'll cycle through your different tools and choose the best one that it thinks fits for the application. It's always a good idea to manually choose the dimension tool you want to use. So I want to add that 13 over here. So I'm going to use the linear dimension tool and select my 2 points. Okay. 3D dimensioning is done in the model space, not in the layout space. So for 2D, it's done in the layout, not in the model. For 3D, it's done in the model, not in the layout. So this is the importance of the UCS. Okay, say I've done this 13 dimension. This is the correct orientation. If I did my UCS and I had a negative X and a positive Y, my text would appear upside down. If I change it and have both negative, so both negative X, negative Y, I would have upside down back to front, so totally flipped. So the orientation of your UCS is very important for the way that you want your dimensions to look. An easy way to remember is X will determine the direction that you read your text. So if you have your origin placed here and your X direction is somewhere off to the right, so you'll be reading it from right to left. Sorry, from left to right. That is how you would normally read something. So if you had your origin here and your X placed somewhere off to the right, you'll be reading from left to right, which is how you normally read. And if you have your Y axis oriented up, your text would be oriented in that direction that you have your Y. So you can have a play around, figure out which dimensions or which surfaces are positive, negative, and apply your dimensioning tools appropriately. So for this surface, X and Y, this is positive. And we can use the different dimensioning tools. So linear dimensions for the 24. And then we'll switch the dimensioning tool to radius to dimension this radius here. Okay. So that's for this surface. This surface, I would move my UCS somewhere on this surface. This would be my positive X and this would be my positive Y. And again, go around selecting the appropriate tools. Yes. You don't have the 3D somewhere else.